Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into 2024 and a new era for the T6 Motorsport Super Touring Championship. My name is Sweeney. I'll be talking through each and every single bit of racing action, both, of course, today and for the rest of the season. Usually, I have the wonderful little man of Darragh Thacker alongside me in the commentary booth. Unfortunately, he's unavailable today, but that does not mean we're going to be short of any racing action today. Of course, seasons 1 and 2 took place over the course of 2023, and what fun we did have. Lloyd Biddulph taking the championship on both accounts, but the focus shifts to a different simulator. Basically the prize and the crown and the prestige of this amazing championship is up for grabs once again. And what an elite lineup of drivers that we've got to take part in what is a very high stakes championship. There you can see some of race rooms at best. Matti Kozlov, Marvin Mackenberg, of course, one of the Mackenberg brothers joining us on the grid today. Eskavoski, Fabio Gil returning once again, same too for Simon Trebek, and of course Shaw's Oyster, the Akili racing driver, as well. Then you've got the other Mackenberg brother of Sven, Mariusz Zabdir, of course a huge staple name both of this championship and of course of race room in general. Same too is true for the Hungarian of Christian Orban, Gregor Hijek joining us for this season, Victor Bernat, Gasper Marak, and of course Pilak as well. Then comes Deploy as well, another new entry to the championship. Vladislav Levic, of course, returning once again, our regional, or of course known, infamous tank really of this championship. Pascal Jean-Pietre, a huge help behind the scenes from him, and hopefully a huge charge forward on track. Bench Farkash, Pavel Buchanan once again back for another season after a successful debut in season 2. Fraser Rostar, Stancho Koch, and of course Davio Santiago, as well as to do it as well, rounding off another page of elite drivers. Stu Neal, and there, a big name. Alessandro Ottaviani, a huge name, of course, when it comes to race room, sim racing, Veloce, everything really in general. Kovalevsky, Christian Juhasz as well, Michael Ploff, Matej Mikovic, again, the Hungarian, a huge name when it comes to race room. Sergei Mukamov as well, rounding off our elite roster of drivers. So basically, the bottom line is, right, what I said there quite often was, we've got some good drivers in this championship, some huge names, and hopefully some strong competition to come with it. And of course, they're going to want to be fighting for as much as they can, because there is a lot, and when I say a lot, I mean a lot of prize money on offer. When it comes to the championship alone, £285, nearly double what we had over the course of seasons 1 and 2. Second place gets themselves 210, third 135, fourth 85, and fifth £50. Third place over the course of seasons 1 and 2 got themselves 50 quid. Now that extends all the way down to fifth. Also, sort of reminiscent of a similar sort of championship award in real life touring car racing as well, we have a cup prize money. Essentially, the highest finisher in the standings, they didn't quite get themselves into the top 3, they get themselves 40 quid. And also on top of that, over the course of our calendar that was planned from today all the way to the 23rd of April with a break week on the 24th of March, there's weekly prize money for the round itself. 20 for first place, the winner of the round, 15 and 10, of course, over the course of races 1 and 2, which we'll get into, of course, in just a second. And then, just to top it all off, as if all this money wasn't enough, there's also a prize draw, 3 £30 prizes, of course £90 in total for those that complete 16 of 20 races over the course of the season. Again, that attendance, that minimal incident limit award that we had similar over the course of seasons 1 and 2 as well. So I don't want to do the maths in my head because I'll definitely get it wrong, but there's a lot of money basically and a lot to be excited about. So thank you to everyone who's going to be joining along for the ride. And of course we all start here at one of the biggest venues in Japan, which is of course a big nation and a famous historic nation when it comes to motorsport. Of course, Suzuka, home of the Formula 1 Grand Prix, Super Formula, and pretty much every racing, big name racing series comes to this circuit. A figure 8, of course, 17 turns and nearly 6 kilometers of pure racing fun around here. A driver's favourite for sure. Turns 1, 2, through the S's, up through Dunlop, then into the Degners, the hairpin, spoon curve, 130R, and Casio Triangle to round off the lap. Each and every single one of these corners in these touring cars here on Race Room will be, of course, rife with opportunity and plenty of race ability going through the two 25-minute races that we've got. 12 minutes of quali, which we'll get into in just a second after practice has concluded, and then we'll run away into that 12 minutes of qualifying. Two 25-minute races, so of course race 1 will be decided from the 12 minutes of qualifying. Race 2 will be a top 10 reverse grid as well. So once again, keeping the element of reverse grids in the mix there as well, just to really spice things up, similar to what we had in race 1 and 2. Seasons 1 and 2 of the what was then Trip 6 Motorsport Super Touring Championship. We've been upgraded, plenty of sponsors now on board, so thank you to Pascal Jean-Pietro behind the scenes, and of course Rich Rutherall for all of their work and help behind the scenes to really boost the platform going into 2024. Also, congrats to them being now a recommended community by Motorsport UK Esports, of course. As an organisation, really huge platform. They run their own sim racing events as such, and have a lot of prestige when it comes to the UK and, to be fair, the global sim racing community as a whole, both in sim and of course in real life as well. We have bridged our way into qualifying, and we'll see who is going to be able to get themselves onto the top step to take the first pole position of the season. Pole position as well, just as an added bonus, will just allows you 1 bonus point into the race. Alessandro Oviani, you can see there following him. Be interesting to see how he gets on, of course, on his debut. He's a strong driver, of course, fielded in the actual race room sanctioned WTCR Championship, so force to be reckoned with for sure. Of course, we're seeing a variety of different cars and brands out on the track. The first time, though, we've seen the Cupra, I believe, purely because Alan's performance of things have been shifted. Basically, the Cupra was absolutely shafted in seasons 1 and 2, which is why most people sort of favoured a couple more of the other cars. In season 2 it was the Lynx & Co. In season 1, I believe it was the Alfa Romeo that people decided to go for. But this season, thankfully, quite a large amount of variety and a changing ballast shift as well, which means that top 5 in the championship will get themselves respective success ballast, and will then hopefully be sort of slowed down as such to then bring themselves back into the pack and stop a bit of a dominant run, i.e. Lloyd Biddulph over the course of seasons 1 and seasons 2. But as you can see, the drivers making their way around the outlap and staying relatively close to each other as well. Not expected this as such. I mean, Suzuka's quite a technical circuit, and with that, of course, comes the possibility that dirty air, and well, not necessarily dirty air, but obviously getting caught up behind drivers and then being slower than you as such can definitely trip you up. But maybe there is quite an emphasis on the slipstream here today. The back straight, the run towards 130R, maybe there is a lot of high-speed sections that drivers will want to benefit off of the slipstream, and of course with it being quite a long circuit as well in general. You can see there basically took them 3 minutes just to do the outlap alone into turn number 1 and 2. Sparks being clicked up by the Veloce driver of Ottaviani. Then they tackle the S's for the first time, and must be quite difficult in these touring cars because, of course, front-wheel drive. It's a lot of grip on that front axle. Of course, still quite a considerable amount, but maybe not to the standard that you would get maybe in a rear-wheel drive car. Not quite able to get that same level of rotation, but seem to be handled just fine by the top 2, of course, leading this train. Not necessarily going to be the top 2 when it comes to the lap times, as they run their way through the very long Dunlop curve in towards the Degners. Degner 1, then Degner 2. Very difficult sequence to get right. Once you nail them, you can gain a bucket load of lap times. Then, of course, into the hairpin. Could be a prime overtaking opportunity to look out for if drivers see the opportunity. It does pinch quite a lot. The exit is important, but the inside is there. Should be right for overtaking. Gaston Rack, you can see, leading the way ahead of Ottaviani, doing a stellar job, it must be said, on an opening round of qualifying. Not a driver that I've been particularly acquainted with before in the wider world of sim racing, but definitely taken to the stage and Let's see how he gets on. It's not been the case that Oviani is necessarily ridiculously close in on him, so there is an opportunity there maybe for him to be setting some competitive lap times through the double apex spoon curve. And then towards 30 again a gauge as to what the first set of lap times are going to be as they roll their way through. Of course, Marak fastest to the first 2 sectors as things stand. Of course, when lap times come in, that will be subject to change. Spark being kicked up from everyone involved, and then you're on our way towards the Casio triangle. First time in qualifying, and already, you know, only the first laps have been put in, and we've effectively already lost the first half of this session to the clock. And then you can see only 7 minutes left to go, as is the fact that this is, you know, over 2 minutes in lap time. We're at the fastest. Gijek there up there, only half a tenth of a second slow. Jean Pietro there as well. Let's see Marvin Mackenberg going quickest. 2:11.158 going the way of the German. Always crafty as are the Mackenberg brothers. Susceptible to an odd internet disconnection or something along the way, but raw driving ability on track is sometimes really never ever second best. They are always at the top end of whatever they do, and both of them inside the top 5. Benj Farkash, a driver who did impress over the course of seasons 1 and 2, back up there on circuit once again, purple to the first sector, but as I've said, it's a long technical circuit with plenty of opportunity for things to go haywire, but also on the flip side of that, looking more positively, more opportunity for you to actually gain time relative to your competitors. Let's see, into 130R, flip to the left, of course, of Benj Farkash, nicely done, in towards the braking zone once more for the Casio triangle. Again, another overtaking opportunity potentially. Purple to the middle sector as well, up onto 2 wheels potentially onto the inner curb. As he runs his way through the final corner. Puts his foot down to the exit and to the line. Could be a quarter of a second quicker than what we've seen so far from Marak. Let's see what the time is going to be as he crosses. It is quickest. Same too with Hungarian Matej Mikovic, of course, his fellow countryman, very much in tow behind, with just 43 thousandths separating the two. So setting a very stable benchmark, it must be said. But once again, a reply here from Gasper Marak. Purple to the first, green to the middle, so only an improvement on his personal best, not relative to the pole sitter of Benj Farkash. Qualifying, is it as important here at Suzuka? Are there enough overtaking opportunities where you can gain that time? Of course, we've seen in qualifying how powerful the slipstream is, and I do stand corrected in regards to variety. Everyone, of course, is in that Cupra. So the only thing separating everything is going to be that success ballast, of course. So everyone opting to head their way into this particular touring car as opposed to the different manufacturers that we saw over the course of seasons 1 and 2. David Santiago, Spaniard in 17th place. Let's see what he can do. 1 and 2. Victor Bernat Rubio up there in 13th as things stand. He crosses the line, goes to 14th. So it's more Spaniard 7th row of the grid as things stand. But again, can't read too much into it at this stage. Still plenty more laps to be put in. Well, realistically, only 2 more in this session if you're starting your lap time right now, as is the case with Race Room. Similar to iRacing, effectively that time at tick 0 session is done. Does not matter if you're on the best lap of your life. Doesn't matter if you're about to set pole position by 3 seconds, it will kick you out of the session and job is done. So timing your lap time as well is going to be even more important. You can see there's Marak currently sat on the 2nd row of the grid behind Uhash. Once again, up with the first sector, looking very, very competent. What type of racing are we going to see then, of course, with how high of a caliber this field is? At the moment, the top 13 is where you then break the second mark around such a long circuit. A second is not really that much in terms of a gap. I mean, realistically, it's not huge, and the gaps in between each of the drivers as well, incredibly close. Just 1 second between 13 drivers is less than a tenth of a second on average between each of them. So it's competitive, is the point I'm trying to make. We get 2 25-minute races plus a reverse grid along the way for these drivers to test their skills. I mean, you've got Mariusz Sabdir, 2-time runner-up, to Lloyd Biddulph down in 9th place initially in the qualifying session. Benj Farkash and Mikovic, though, of course, still impressing. But this man right here of Marak, purple to sector 1, Purple to sector 2. Across the line, of course it's the extended line, it's a little bit further up is where the timing line actually sits. Is it pole position? It is. Into the 210s, Hugek as well. Joins him up there on the front row, just 75 thousandths of a second behind him. Christian Juhasz up there as well into the top 3. So looking very, very pretty in the top 3, and of course the top 4 in the second row, just over 0.2 of a second. The top 5 just a quarter of a second into probably what's going to be the final runs for some in this qualifying session. Just 2.5 minutes left to go. Farkash, of course, looking to improve. He's got purple to the first sector by about half a tenth. Looking promising through Spoon, trying to keep it nice and tidy. Use all the track on the exit, then bite it back in for a nice straight line exit. Of course, be careful of that AstroTurf on the right. And when he crosses the sector 2 split line, we'll see if he's going to be on for pole position on what will be his final lap of the day. Barely into the 2-minute 10s. Purple to the middle sector though. Could this be the lap that snatches away pole position from Rack and Hugek on the front row? Of course, the Hungarian, both in race room ranked and of course in T6 Motorsport past, has always been a very, very strong qualifier. Well, to be fair, Hungary as a nation have always been a very, very strong qualifying regime from both of them. Let's see what Farkash can do across the line. Is it going to be provisional pole position? It is, by just 4 1/1000ths of a second, a minute and a half on the clock. Vince Farkash tops the session, but only just. There's this man, previous pole sitter Gasper Rack, once again looking for an improvement. Just a minute left to go, a 1/10.5 up on Bench Farkash's time. All he's got to do is keep it nice and tidy, and it could be a sensational pole position. Keep it nice and tidy. Of course, he's going to be knowing how good of a lap time he's on, using all of the curve through the Casso triangle, but still keeping some nice momentum, using the curve to get the rotation in that Cooper. Puts his foot to the floor. 2-minute 10.7 is the one to beat. He only needs a marginal improvement, but right now he's going to smash it out of the park. 50 seconds on the clock. His final run in qualifying puts him on pole position. As things stand, 86 thousandths of a second between the top 2. There are still more lap times to be put in. He's Nenad Vlasovljevic, an improvement on his personal best, but not enough to be contending for pole position. Is it an improvement? Is it the top 10? It's P8. Nicely done from Vlasovljevic. Final runs coming in. There's Alessandro Ottaviani, but he's unable really to improve. Let's take a quick look then as to how things stand. In fact, Ottaviani did improve. The Italian goes 4th, but pole position going to Marak. Ben Farkash joins him on row 1 ahead of Greg Hugek and Alessandro Ottaviani, the Italian, putting in a sensational lap time to put himself on row 2. Christian Juhasz, what was once the front row towards the final couple of laps in qualifying, makes it 5th. Matej Mikovic rounds off row 3. Christian Orban just in behind in P7 with Pascal Jean-Pietro, the Swissman, there in 8th. Sven Mackenberg and Nenad Vlasovljevic round off the top 10 ahead of Marvin Mackenberg, just outside of the top 10. Pavel Mukonin in P12 ahead of Mariusz Sabdir down in P13. Not going to be happy with that, but firmly a racing driver is the pole. Stu Nilshaw's Oyster, top 15, and there we go into the warm-up session. Just to quickly run through things as they were. Of course, you had Shaw's Oyster, Michael Clough just in behind, Banat Rubio, Kozlov, Santiago, Terdic, Trebek, Kovalevsky, and of course Oplichit as well to round off the 23 car field that we've got here today. 2 minutes 30 of warm-up, then 25 minutes of racing action. What a huge grid that we've got, by the way. That is a very busy pit lane. Hopefully we can maintain this level of attendance throughout the entirety of the season. By the way, have not touched on the calendar as such. I'll use this warm-up as an opportunity too. Of course, we start here today at Suzuka. In a week's time, on the 25th of February, we'll head to Aragon, the WTCR layout, of course, before Imola. Twin Ring Motegi for round number 4 on the 10th of March. That's going to be a very, very interesting one. Spa to round off the first half of the championship. Take a break week before rejoining at Silverstone on the 31st of March. We then go to Slovakia on the 7th of April, a circuit that isn't really ever used when it comes to basically any top-level championship or any championship in general, really. One of those ones that are tucked away, so it'll be interesting to see how things go when we head over there. Bathurst the week after on the 14th. Sepang and the Nordschleife to to round off the championship on the 23rd of April. So that is going to be a lot of fun to touch on. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rounds over the course of the next couple of months to decide who takes home that big pool of 285 Great British pounds. It's a lot of money. I definitely would not be complaining with 285 quid for a season's worth of work. Mikovic though, of course, fielding the Williams Esports Chill Blast livery. Looking beautiful as ever. A minute left in warm-up, and unfortunately we're getting word that the server has had an oopsie. So of course we'll update you with things as and when we can, but basically the usual running order of how things would work is we go from qualifying into race 1 into race 2 all in one consecutive server, as to sort of save the hassle as such. Unfortunately, the server crash has prompted a small issue in that regard. Hopefully things can still go smoothly, and if/when we can get another session set up. Similar thing happened on the inaugural round ever, this time last year actually, for the first ever round at Silverstone of the Trip 6 Motorsport Super Touring Championship, of course, as it was then. Now, of course, just T6. But we had a similar issue. We had to redo qualifying, which obviously was to the delight of some and to the dismay of others. Of course, we'll keep you updated as to what is going on. We'll draw to a close. Who have we still got in the session? And are we going to be able to get going again? Because the thing is, the tricky thing with Race Room is once the race session has started, you can't leave and rejoin. You can join during qualifying, you can register during qualifying, but you can't rejoin during a race, which is why Rich has firmly said, do not leave after the end of race 1, because we're not going to be going to a different server. We're going to be staying in this one, and it basically means if you leave, you're a numpty, and you can't get yourself back in, which means you're losing out on 20 points worth of racing. Of course, as the point system works, 20, 17, 15, 13, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All the way down to, of course, the back end of the point system. But 20 points for a win, +1 for fast lap, +1 for pole position. You know, there are potentially 22 points, or no, 43 points on offer, sorry, I should say, for the entire evening. Of course, 40 for the wins, and then 2 fastest laps, and a pole position point as well. We are going to get going to some form of a race, albeit with only 5 drivers. So not really something to write home about. The initial start, of course, just a practice one, I suppose, for these 5. Mate Mikovic will lead them from pole, Christian Orban alongside, but of course don't read too much into this race. They're going to treat it as one anyway. Fabio Gil already dropping out, but maybe these guys seeing it as a good opportunity to get some racing experience under their belts, dust off some cobwebs, dust off some nerves, and get a practice start in before the race, because you'd be surprised how invaluable that can be. As a driver, unfortunately, we have had some small technical difficulties, as I say, with the server crashing and everything. I'm just going to be stepping aside for just a moment. We'll be back in a few. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the T6 Motorsport Super Touring Championship. Apologies for the fairly substantial technical difficulties that we've faced. Everything has been put in place to make sure we're back up and running as effectively as possible. Unfortunately, due to the server reset, we are going to have to rerun qualifying, of course, with a reduced time of just 10 minutes. So, previous pole sitters, of course, are going to be, well, a little bit upset, but maybe didn't quite get the best laps in. Can now have another go, retry and recuperate for the race ahead, or races, I should say, ahead. My name still Zach Sweeney, that's not changed, and I'm looking forward to bringing you all the best in terms of the racing action that's going to be coming our way once more. It does mean we get to enjoy the spectacle once again of qualifying, and appreciate all of your time at home. Thank you so much for being so considerate and waiting, and we're back, we're running, we're good. Touch wood, it's all going to be good. It's a season start, it's a new year, let us off, right? Okay, that's what we're putting it down to, yeah, bedding in process. Myself and Rich, we literally joked about this exact thing before we came on air. We were like, yeah, it's going to be fine, yeah, it's all going to go smoothly, first time, of course it is, and then obviously it didn't, yeah, well, not to say I told you so, but I told you so. But it's fine. It's completely out of our control, and these things happen, unfortunately. Hopefully, it won't happen again. Hopefully, it won't happen for sort of throughout the rest of the season. But focusing back on the positives, we've got these amazing touring cars out on circuit. And once again, Ben's Farkash is out there ready to sort of set the standard of lap times. Does seem to be a solo qualifying as well, which obviously is slightly adjusted compared to what it was in the original server, which means there are going to be no slipstream gimmicks, no slipstream assists between sort of teammates or affiliates or brothers out there on circuit. So everything is fair game. It all comes down to your lap time, sort of irrespective of everyone else's around you. It's just how quickly can you lap this car around this track, which is always sort of a good thing as such. And of course they don't have to then do the outlap because it's a rolling start in private sessions, so they can literally just go straight into a lap, as we're seeing right now, which means they can get the most out of this 10-minute qualifying session. The first laps are going to be coming in straight away. Ben's Farkash, I believe, going to be the first of those to put one lap time in. We were looking sort of towards the mids to 10s, I believe, in the original qualifying, and straight into that for Ben's Farkash already. 2:10.8 is what he's looking for so far in this qualifying session. In fact, I think it was probably closer to a 20, oh, not a 20, a 2:10.7-ish in that vein. Yeah, 2:10.7 was what Mac put in right towards the end of the session, so that's what we're going to go with as sort of the benchmark, which means they're already there or thereabouts. This small little interim period, definitely not phased them whatsoever. Uhash, purple to the first, slower to the second. What's he going to do to the third sector across the line? Is it enough, maybe, to get himself onto the front row? It is. 64 thousandths of a second slower than Ben's Farkash, but that's very quickly beaten out by Mrak, who sets the benchmark again. Only 8 thousandths of a second between the two of them, which, by the way, doesn't really do it justice, but that's double the original gap between Mrak and Farkash in qualifying one. And yeah, still remarkably close between the pair of them. Sven Mackenberg into the top 5, as he was originally over the course of the first qualifying session, but both the Mackenberg brothers, only one of them was able to get into the top 10. That was Sven. Also, we'd love Marvin to be racing up there as well. So we'll see. Again, a second chance, and they've already had the original bedding in qualifying session as such, which unfortunately now doesn't necessarily mean anything. It'll be interesting to see how the points are awarded. Of course, if I remember back to obviously last year and the first ever season, the first ever round, I believe it was split a point each for each of the pole sitters, who I believe was Mario Sabdir and Lloyd Biddulph on that particular day. I think they got a point each. So maybe that'll be the case for this session, and if it's the same sitter, then of course it might be the way that they get 2 points as such for top and qualifying in both sort of stabs at the knife. Here's Gregor Hujek at the moment across the line, and again, the drivers watching along back home, if I completely butcher your name, let me know, because I'd love to know, obviously, how to pronounce it properly. We're going to be here for a while. I might as well get to know you all. Of course, Hidek getting himself basically a quarter of a second clear in the fight for pole. 2:10.5 at the moment is the benchmark, with just half of the session left to go. And on that, on pronunciations, you should have heard the first time I tried to pronounce Shaw's Oyster, and I still don't even get it exactly right. There is just no phonetic way of sort of explaining it to me. He did his best, and I even sort of consulted other Dutch people as to say, how do I pronounce it? And that's the closest we're going to get. So, let me know, so I don't butcher it for the whole season and you resent and hate me forever as that worst commentator that couldn't get your name right. Just let me know. And anything else, any information that you think might be worth noting, any strategies or sort of things that go on your head, any information really, don't hesitate to let me know. I'd love to hear from you all. And of course, anyone else watching at home, let me know your thoughts, feelings, queries, questions, really whatever tickles your fancy over the course of the 50 minutes of racing action that we're going to have. Alessandro Ottaviani, P4, originally in the first qualifying session, and front row provisionally on this one as well. 10th and a half off the pole time set by Hidek. Here's Shaw's Oyster, the man himself, the Flying Dutchman, at the moment 13th and about a second and a half off pole, but it's not a huge gap considering. Let's see if he's able to improve into the top 10. He does. Only marginally quicker than Sven Mackenberg though in P11. A very nice Cooper livery there, the red and the black looks very mean from Ben Farkash. Purple to the first sector, riding the curb quite a lot through Spoon. Up this back straight towards 130, of course quite an incline on it, and then it sort of levels itself out before you reach the very fast left-hander here at 130R. Purple to the first, slightly slower relative to Hidek in the second. All comes together though in the final 3 corners. Big snap of oversteer though on the exit. You could see Ben Farkash getting ever so slightly out of shape. He's now through the final corner. Let's see what he can do in terms of making another claim for the front row. Is it going to be enough? Of course, in what is a very hotly contested front-running field, and to be fair, an entire field is incredibly close for your respective positions. Ben Farkash gets to the front row, but only just. The Italian of Ottaviani in third. Also, by the way, you will notice that a couple of the esports drivers as such haven't got their original liveries. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, they haven't been able to select them. So for this week, they're going to be going for the whatever one they can go with, basically. Of course, for Ottaviani, a huge old question mark on the side. Still kind of in Veloce colours, I guess. Kind of white's their thing, white and blue. So it's kind of on brand for Ottaviani. But there he is, running through into 130R. Very quick to the first, very quick to the second as well. This could be a sensational lap for the Italian. No matter what livery he's in, he's very speedy. Small little bit of twitch going into 130R and coming out of it as well. Bit into Casio triangle again, getting all the curb as he can. And then, of course, through the final corner here, this very fast right-hander that you've just got to pin your foot down and keep it nice and tight on the run to the line. Has he nailed sector 3? Keeping it nice and tight to, of course, round off his qualifying session. He's not going to be able to get another one in. Is it pole position? It is, provisionally for the Italian Ottaviani. And the second stab goes to pole position by a 10th and a half. Not a lot in it whatsoever. A 2:10.4 is what these guys are going to have to beat. Mrak across the line, only good enough for second. 3/100ths of a second separate the top 2, so it's not good enough to replicate that pole position we saw in qualifying 1. Pascal Jean-Pierre across the line, only good enough for P9 in the very fabulous livery that he's got. And I believe that's Thor Esports livery. There's Mario Sabtit for Absolute Motorsport Racing Team. He was 13th in qualifying 1. We'll be hoping that he doesn't get subject to the same misfortune in qualifying 2. Still Ottaviani at the front, still waiting for Hidek and Farkash to put in their final lap times if they're able to. The pole, keeping it nice and tight on the run to the line. Is it good enough for the top 10? Let's see what he's able to do as he puts in his final time of qualifying 2. It's P11, so still not enough to get into top 10. Marvin Mackenberg got into the top 5. His brother Sven down in 13th. There is Mati Kozlov in 18th place. Christian Orban in P10 as well. So again, quite a stacked field when you see Christian Orban down at the back end of the top 10, which goes to say sort of everything you need to know. And of course, this will ebb and flow as the season develops, as tracks, of course, cater to different characteristics. But with the session taking down, it's Alessandro Ottaviani on pole position for the real grid setting session. 25 minutes of racing await the Italian ahead of Mrak, who still gets himself on the front row. Greg Kijek in P3 ahead of Benj Farkash, less than a quarter of a second separate the front two rows. Marvin Mackenberg rounds off the top 5 ahead of Christian Juhasz in P6. Pavel Mukona much better in the second, qualifying in P7. Same to Matej Mikovic in P8. Pascal Jean-Pietri keeping it consistent in P9 ahead of Christian Orban and Mariusz Zabdir P10 and P11. Jules Oyser keeps the pole company on row 6 ahead of the second Mackenberg of Sven. Victor Bernat Rubio joins him on row 7 ahead of Michael Clough in P15. And then behind that, of course, you can see the rest of the very extensive field that we've got here today. 28 cars, I believe, ready to go. 3 minutes of warm-up. Are we going to see many people taking to the track? Because at the end of the day, right, you've had your practice session leading up to this. You've had your practice basically throughout the entire off-season as such, if they deep it that much, if they've taken to the track and really methodically practiced for it. They've had the first qualifying session. How much are they going to learn in this 2.5 minute session they get before the race? Probably not much, surely. I've never been one to use the warm-up session. I've used it as an opportunity just to get out my sim rig, just to sort of stretch my legs, I should say. Get some blood pumping, just stretch out a little bit, cool off, get a drink, go to the toilet, whatever. I've never really been one to take to the track, because all you're doing surely is just wearing yourself out, tiring yourself, overthinking it. Whereas if you just maybe sit back, calm some nerves, take a breather, surely that's going to be more beneficial than maybe going out there just to learn the track. But you should already know it to a high enough standard. It's almost a sort of like cramming in the night before your exam as such. Maybe you'll memorize that one thing that gets you maybe 1 mark in the exam, but are you going to be able to fill the entire sort of curriculum worth of content? Probably not, no. You should have already done that the weeks beforehand to sort of cram it in. That's sort of the best comparison I can give. So it might work for some, but for me, and I'm sure plenty others probably won't, but obviously Marvin Mackenberg out there, maybe just to use it as a session to dump some adrenaline, to cool off some nerves before the race, because again, everyone handles it differently, right? I mean, one way for one driver might not work for another. Of course, they've all got their own superstitions and pre-race rituals and things to lead up going into the session itself, so maybe getting up there and blowing off some steam might be worth it to them, but you barely complete, you don't even complete a lap, you complete the out lap, and that's pretty much it. So unless there's one particular corner where they just want to try that one thing, maybe break 5 minutes, maybe 5 minutes later, or wait half a second before getting back onto the throttle, or sort of push forward your acceleration point, obviously bring it earlier, then yeah, I mean, maybe it is worth doing, but just never seen the benefit of it. But of course they're using it to good effects. I'm sure they know a lot more than I do. That is definitely for sure Marvin Mackenberg, and to be fair, the majority of this field much better than I am, and that definitely goes without saying. Of course they fight at the top end of race room ranked. You'll see them on the ranked events. Obviously recently we had the 2.4 hours of Daytona and the support races that led up to that. Of course before that we had the race room ranked season 2 of 2023/24. So there's a lot of high levels of talent on this grid, and a lot of recognisable names for those that obviously keep track of the official stuff on race room. Of course recently with the DTM Esports Championship running as well. Unfortunately the race room ranked commentary team didn't get the call up for that one. We are still just on the official race room ranked stuff, but I get the privilege, and myself and Darragh Thacker as well, we get to do this, which honestly, get good Lewis, get good Ewan, and get good Cam, because we get to commentate on some awesome chips. Of course T6 Motorsport is still an adjustment for me. T6 Motorsport Super Touring Championship Season 3, of course. Darragh joined for a couple of rounds over the course of Season 2, and I've been here since the start. Lucky me. Basically a year. Not to the exact date, but around this time last year was when things were getting into motion. And it's only been on the up. Onto the formation then, of course, not a full formation lap as such, but onto the grid nonetheless, and getting ready to finalise their tyre pressures and small bits of tweaks here and there. 25 minutes on the clock, the 5 red lights, finally, the T6 Super Touring Championship, season number 3, week 1, here of course in Suzuka, race 1 of 2 is underway. Alessandro Ottaviani leads them from pole position ahead of Mrak and Hujek, who tried to get a good enough launch from that second row, but look at the launch from Hujek to immediately pull alongside the 55 machine, the outside line of course of turn number 1. Ben's Farkas trying to fill the space on the inside as well. Let's see what Mrak can do. At the moment it's the white Cupra that leads, of course, of Alessandro Ottaviani. Mrak just able to get ahead. Ben's Farkas trying to launch a bit of an attack going into the S's, but the outside line not going to prevail on that particular occasion. So 1, 2, 3 and 4 as they started, as Martin Mackenberg dropping behind Juhas as well. That's the fight for 5th place, but Ottaviani with a perfect launch right at the start of this race, able to sort of cement that lead, build an early gap and alleviate some of that early pressure and some early nerves. So a perfect start for the Italian early on through the Dunlop curve towards the Degas. Bench Farkas wants to get himself onto the podium. Let's see if he's able to pick his way past Hujek going in. Not quite big enough braking zone really going into that particular sequence of quarters, but a huge centre 3 wide and contact already. Benz Farkas is facing backwards through the second Degner. That's caused absolute calamity. Juhas losing a couple of places. It sparked all sorts of chaos in the background. Marvin Mackenberg able to capitalise. He's onto the podium. And if Hujek Pavel Mukona now into the top 5, but not for very long as Matej Mikovic moves his way past, but it's all shuffling around as they exit the hairpin. And this is absolute delight for the top 2, who are now able to break away from it all. Marvin Mackenberg now once again behind Hujek. What happened going into that second Degner? What caused it? I believe it might have been Juhas going for the move on Farkas, and it all just went haywire from there. Mackenberg going a little bit wide. Pavel Mukona trying to search for the gap. Not quite able to though, of course. He was able to get a podium on his debut this time last season. We headed to Monza, of course, and very strong throughout the entirety of the season, so looking to replicate said success. There is Christian Juhas as well, looking very menacing in the rearview mirror of Mukkonen, and Mukkonen himself looking very menacing in the rearview mirror of the German of Mackenberg. So this is a very calamitous race start. We're only 1 lap in, still 23 minutes left to go, and the entirety of this fight from P2 all the way down, realistically, to P17 is where there's the next big gap between Turnage and of course Kozlov. That is a big statement to have a huge train all aboard the Mrak Express at the moment, or in fact the Hujek Express I should say. So 1 lap in the books, and well, T6 Motorsport starts it off with a bang for season 3. Inside line, Christian Juhas trying to set the move on Pavel Mukkonen, spots the gap brilliantly. Of course Mukkonen trying to go the long way round, keeps it nipped and tucked, but eventually has to concede. Juhas is through back inside the top 5 once more. Plenty more racing yet to come. Well, if this doesn't get you pumped up for the season ahead, I don't really know what will. Ladies and gentlemen, Ottaviani just flirting on that second mark with, of course, Mrak. That's the fight for P1 and P2. Not really much of a fight at the moment. Be updated with the gaps as things have been flowing throughout the entirety of this race. Pavel Mukkonen into the first Degner, still in 6th place, having to be mightily careful. Matej Mikovic is right there behind him, looking, of course, menacing as always in that Chill Blast livery, wanting to replicate some of the success that he's seen in the Race from Rank Championships and, of course, over the course of the previous 2 seasons in touring cars. Thank you, of course, to everyone who's tuning in, watching along. Thank you to all of our sponsors that have made this season of the T6 Motorsport Championship happen. Without everyone behind the scenes tracking along, definitely wouldn't be possible, and these drivers definitely willing to put on a fabulous show for us as they gun their way towards £285 worth of prize money just for the lead in the championship alone. Which, don't forget, we're also fighting each round for £30 worth of prize money as well, just for winning the round on points. So it's prize money for every, of course, turn of the stone. Christian Orban, you can see there following him in the red and white behind. That's Darragh Pietro, the Swissman, able to move his way inside the top 8. Round off lap number 2 and already 20% of this race in the books. Big bit of curb there. The Dory Sports liveried past Darragh Pietro. That was a remarkable angle, it must be said, riding onto 2 wheels, but able to bring it back down. And that is the racing line, is to just take that big of a chunk of curb, riding on the rearview mirror of all the sort of the top. Pascal Pietro looking back, going slightly defensive, just to tear the move more than anything of Christian Orban. Very clean racing did spark was short and brilliant, respectful racing between plenty of drivers that is probably going to wage on for the rest of the evening. Just don't forget there is a top 10 reverse grid race 2. Coming up just after this. So obviously when this race ends, don't go anywhere because I'm still going to be rambling on. Maybe that is a reason for you to leave, I don't know. But when it comes to the racing action, for sure, maybe you can just mute the stream, I don't know. To get yourself, obviously, eyes peeled on the racing that's going to be coming up, because there is a lot of it. Obviously, as this race begins to settle down, ever so slightly, it's sort of reached that plateau where people are getting into their rhythm, just finding their feet, trying to think more methodically about the long road ahead that is the final 19 minutes of this race. But again, £20 prize money for each week, 15 and 10 for second and third of the round, so there's prizes to be had, almost £45 worth each week alone. For winning this race, points all the way down to the back end. So at the moment it's Kovalevsky, the last of those in the point scoring positions. He'll get himself at only 1 point, but every little helps over the course of the 10-round championship, over the course of the next 11 weeks, of course. Side by side momentarily, and a bit of contact actually. Juháš sent sideways by Mukkonen. They're now going to go side by side. Mikiewicz trying to get himself involved through the S's. Let's see who's going to be the first to concede. It's definitely not going to be Juháš as he forces Mukkonen into submission. Now what's the Hungarian stance going to be in this? Matej Mikiewicz just in behind the Russian. Through the final part of the S's and then into Dunlop, where the car is loaded up to the max, as it always is really here at Suzuka. Really a low point in terms of demand for these cars and these drivers. Juháš, we're looking obviously rearward at Pavel Mukkonen, who's not quite close enough, and look at the sheer amount of roll these cars get, how much the body leans, with slightly softer suspension and just the reaction to the curb launching the car up. Just 8 minutes into this race already, to lap number 4, late brakes, and everyone keeping a nice and nipping time. A bit of contact in the back, and I think that might be Christian Orban trying to spark a move on the Swissman. Pascal Jean-Pietre, that's the fight for 8th. The Swiss driver able to stay ahead for now. Keyword there, of course, is for now. Well, keywords for now. See side by side actually, Pascal Jean-Pietre in the black and the blue, fighting with the red and the white of Christian Orban, who once again has the tuck and concede. There's Shores Oyster as well, trying to get himself involved. He's looking to go to the inside of 130R and follow through on the Swissman. Of course, giving the slipstream to a bit of the both. Inside line though, definitely going to reign supreme through 130R, but the up and under could well be there for the Hungarian. Is he going to launch a counter-attack into the Casio triangle? Defensive goes the black Cupra of Shores Oyster, no way through. Christian Orban losing place, turning offence into defence, and unfortunately losing out on the defensive. 16 minutes left to go in this race, and it's flying by with how long these laps are. Alessandro Ottaviani still with a comfortable lead, 1.4 seconds clear of Mrak. Of course, the entirety of the top 4 are all debut drivers to this championship. Side by side in front, actually, Mikiewicz versus Juháš. That's the fight for 6th. It's all kicking off with Pavel Mukkonen now inside the top 5. Juháš under threat from the Hungarian, who is going to fight him all the way to the death with a chill bus livery, of course, of Mikiewicz trying to find his way past Juháš. Of course, the Darragh Esports livery. No way through at the moment, well defended from Juháš, but not able to keep Pavel Mukkonen behind for now. Losing a lot of time though to Marvin Mackenberg, who was able to capitalise beautifully early on and catapult himself into the podium contention. Still there actually with Hijek. Oh my goodness me, Juháš looking for the move into the second deck there. Eventually lets off, but it might have hampered his run and put him on the back foot relative to Matej Mikiewicz, who might be looking quite tasty under the brakes. Definitely later. it enough. Trying to set up the up and under, and now they've actually joined carriages with the train behind Pascal Jean-Pierre on to the back of Mikiewicz, and he's brought with him Charles Oyser, Christian Orban, Victor Bernat Rubio, and Michael Koff as well, and also Sven Mackenberg. Stu Neal also in the mix there as well, just about half a second off the back of the German, so maybe this battling been the most advantageous to these three fighting for the top 5. But of course that battle just in behind was Christian Orban at threat with how strong of a driver he is of missing out on benefiting from the reverse grid. The gap at the moment between P10 and P11 just 0.3 of a second. There's going to be 5 rows of the grid when it comes to race 2 in terms of track position, and that's something Bernat Rubio is not going to want to miss out on one bit going into the second race. Pavel Buchanan, you can see the next 2 drivers of Fujek and Mackenberg in 3rd and 4th, and maybe that's sort of inspiring these drivers to work together a little bit more as we approach the halfway mark. Just to say, come on, let's give it a go. I mean, we've only got 2.9 seconds to catch. I know that sounds a lot, but with the slipstream and such, we can maybe get after them. Turn 2, and still no major advancements made from most of the people. In this long train. Just of course, battles up and down the field. Not too much happening at the front, but also very close, and it's not exactly a very long fuse, not going to take much to catalyse what could be a very big chain reaction amongst a lot of these guys, but in fairness, the entire grid is close. It's been carnage all the way down, up and down. Vince Farkas, of course, with that small incident, well, I say small, big incident on lap 1, tumbling down now to P20. That's going to be a tough recovery for him, and already a step backwards in the championship. Christian Orban eyeing up the move, of course, on the inside of Charles Oyser. He's now through them. Also got Victor Bernat Rubio, as I say, the Spaniard will want to get himself into the top 10. This is a very important battle, arguably just as important as those for the lead, because this is going to determine the starting order for race number 2. Of course, top 10 reverse, Christian Orban just hanging on to that reverse grid by the skin of his teeth. He goes wide. Bernat Rubio definitely closing the gap. Christian Orban just able to shut the door in his face and say, no, you do not. And while Christian Orban at the moment has got the best position for race 2, he's arguably in one of those stressful positions in race 1, because would it be better to get ahead of Oyser, to get ahead of Jean-Pierre, to score obviously more points for race 1, but also feel more secure to start towards the front in race 2? No, it won't be pole, but it'll be 2nd and 3rd, and you run less of a risk of starting from P11. So it's sort of that all or nothing trade-off at the moment Christian Orban's got. It's all in the sense that it could be pole, it's nothing in the sense that Victor Bernat Rubio could get past, and he could be starting next race from P11. Christian Juhasz on the back of Pavel Buchanan in the tuck between all 3 of them. Mate Mikiewicz just making up the rear of this train. Which way is the Hungarian going to go? Pavel Buchanan semi-defensive. Christian Juhasz trying to go the long way round. He's going to give it a good go, and through goes Mate Mikiewicz on the inside, but Juhasz going sliding in the, of course, the outer edge of the circuit. Rejoins just ahead, I believe, of Victor Bernat Rubio, and retains 10th place, so crucially still within inside the top 10. But what a move that was from Mate Mikiewicz. Took a very idle stance in that battle, just was able to get up and underneath the pair of them. Of course, as Pavel Buchanan went in deep, Mate Mikiewicz was able to capitalise through. He went into 5th place. Nicely done from the Hungarian. Very good opportunistic racing there from him, but the fight is not over. The battle is won, the war far from over. What drama is kicking off right now? Of course, Juhasz is not going to be very happy with that one, but arguably maybe what did you expect by going around the outside of turns 1 and 2, still inside the top 10. Bernat Rubio losing out on a golden opportunity to get a free pass into the reverse grid beneficiaries. Just 10 minutes left to go. Of course, this would mark the halfway point this time last season, but we've extended the races by 5 minutes each. So an extra 10 minutes of racing. How lucky are we? Of course, we actually got an extra 10 minutes of qualifying as well, so an extra 20 minutes worth of on-track action for us all. Compared to last season, of course, the extra 10 minutes of qualifying is going to be something that we get all the time, but just roll with it. Christian Juhasz, though, in 10th place, looking on the inside of Orban. Giving him the space, but in the end just driving on his own line, staying in front around 10 minutes left of this race. Alessandro Montefiani still leading ahead of Udressy Garage round off the podium, but very close between himself and Marvin Mackenberg. Of course, the gaps you're seeing on the tower, the gap relative to the leader, and not the intervals between each of the drivers. Obviously, there's definitely not, of course, a 9-second gap between these two. However, Christian Orban off the road rejoins. Christian Newhash able to get himself ahead into 9th. Could we have seen a slowdown? Maybe. For Christian Orban, that could see Victor Bernat Rubio find his way past. He's immediately on the defensive. The Spaniard going to look to go to the right-hand side. Bernat Rubio might well be able to get himself into the reverse grid pole position. Tucks back into the slipstream, pulls out once again into turns 1 and 2, but not brave enough on the brakes. Of course, the incident limit for these drivers is 50, which means similar to iRacing, they get 1 incident for each off-track excursion, 2 for spinning, 4 for any contact that they make that's deemed their fault. Of course, they do add up over the course of the race. 50, it is a lot, but also it isn't, depending on how close the racing is. You know, little taps here and there can give you a 4x, and straight away that's only 10% of your total, just in one small tap. Bernat Rubio unsuccessful in his pursuit, obviously getting ahead of Christian Orban. Trying to fill the space as best we can, but not really much happening beyond the top 10. Sven Mackenberg very close to Michael Plough. I'm going to go with Plough. Of course, that's a British name, I probably should know how to read it, but again, we're British, we absolutely have no idea when it comes to pronunciations and phonetics. There is Ben Farkas on the inside of, that's of course Simon Trebek, representing T6 Motorsport themselves. Was fielding the Renault Megane over the course of the first 2 seasons. This time into the Cupra, same as everyone else. Farkas into 18th, and basically with each position that he ticks off, it's not points until he gets into the top 15, but it's an extra leg up for race 2 that can maybe see him score some points. Just been informed it's Clough, which is good. Thank you to of course Rich for informing me with that one. Probably one of the easier names on the grid to know, and it's the one I've struggled with most. Bench Farkas looking to 130R through the moment. However, look at the overspeed. Darragh, of course, very slow. Here comes Farkas to the outside. Nicely done. The Hungarian through 17th place, but really is worrying about. For him, of course, not what he would have wanted to be seeing after his success in qualifying 1, qualifying 2, and of course the initial race start before, of course, further way through it, all went downhill. There's Simon Trebek as well trying to benefit. Darragh not going defensive to the Briton, but Trebek thinking of the move. There he is. It's unsuccessful. Still going, of course, again, not for points, for pride and for starting position for race 2. Those outside the top 10, their starting positions are decided by their finishing position. So from P11 downwards, you start where you finish. Obviously from P1 to P10, it's reverse. 10 starts first, 9th second, all the way down to P1 starting P10. Suzuka, they're not disappointing when it comes to raceability. Wow, Simon Trebek, I'm astonished as to how much these cars can take. I mean, I know TCRs are very raw drivers, has a very raw driving style as such, and very raw cars, very raw engine discipline. But to launch themselves up to 2 wheels like that, so they're doing stunt driving every corner, was remarkable. And the fact that it is probably the fastest way around the corner as well is pretty sensational. Hello to everyone watching along in YouTube chat, of course, to RJ Benny, Tony Gonzalez, Marvin Mackenberg in the mix, Nikolov, Neil Proctor, all joining in today. Polly Flack as well, usually representing the Norfolk races on track, unfortunately taken to the YouTube chat today, but lovely to see you, of course, and anyone else that's watching along as well, don't hesitate to jump into the YouTube chat. Say hello, thoughts, feelings, queries, questions, as I say, whatever tickles your fancy really. Issues oyster, locked in a battle, sandwiched between the 2 Darragh Sports liveried machines of Jean Pietre and Christian Newhash. That's the fight for 7. 5 minutes left to go in this race, 20 minutes down. Flown by in a flash. Now, is Shaw's also going to defend, or is he going to attack? He's going to be forced to do either one. He's going to slightly pull out. Oh, bit of contact as well as he's launched into turn number 1. Very wide, up and under there. As Juhas picks his way past, of course, Shaw's also not going to be very happy with that one. And he's going to fight it all the way to the death. Going to be the inside as they exit turn 2. Juhas, I think, seeing that as a little bit naughty and giving him some leeway. But, of course, also not going to be happy as he's lost a second to the back of the Swiss driver of Pascal. And now back onto the back of him. So the two Christians fighting for P9 and P10. That is, of course, race 2 front row. No changes at the front. Biani still leading Marak. Hujek still under pressure, kind of, from Marvin Mackenberg. Another look into Degler 2. Juhas going for it. I'm not entirely sure if it was him initially on lap 1. Was just sort of his position on the timing tower that gave me that implication. But definitely this race has liked the look of that. So far, really going too successful for him. 0.3 between Hujek and Mackenberg, but that's really been the same all race long. Maybe the German waiting for the final couple of laps to really launch much of an offensive campaign. Riding, looking backwards on Juhas to, of course, Christian Orban. Spoon the left, then another left, double apex. They really swing into each other more than anything, double apex, even if they are considered two separate corners. What will be the penultimate lap of this race already. Defensive having to go is the Dutchman of Scholz-Oyser. Christian Juhas putting him under that much amount of pressure. 2 to go then for race 1 of the T6 Motorsport Super Touring Championship. Momentarily going side by side. I think Juhas getting a bucket load of grass on the exit and into the pit lane, in fact. Now, why is this? Has he forgot to put enough fuel in? Has he exceeded the instant limit and gone to drive-through? Overly sure. Michael Clough, P11 on the back of Victor Bernat Rubio. That could be reverse grid pole position for him, and of course an extra point to his champion tally. Fielding the Arnage competition colours, of course, the very vibrant pink. Beautiful as ever. So again, some big names, not just drivers but esports teams as well, getting their way onto the grid. Nicely successful. Racing, iRacing, R52, Endurances, TCRs as well. Michael Clough representing in their livery and in their colours on the back of the Spaniard, who of course has worked tirelessly to get himself into that position. I can probably doubt he's going to be too willing to give it up, especially with only not that long left to go in this race. Ben Farkas, by the way, up in a 15th. Christian Juhas, by the way, is down to 25th. Oh yeah, of course, because he wanted to pit lane. Goodness me, wow. Award-winning commentator, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Courtesy of Grid Finder, and completely forgot that 5 minutes ago that we were talking about Juhas going into the pit lane. It's fine. I also had to drop that in somewhere, obviously in the interim between last season and this season. A lot has happened, and it's great to be back. Pavel Mikonin on the back of Mate Mikovic. This is the fight for 5th. I promise I'm not really. Lies on that particular statement. Pavel Mikonin, though, would love that P5 of Mate Mikovic, and they've only got 1 lap left to decide. Ottaviani, of course, leading from start to finish, took pole position ahead of Marak, who, of course, was with him on the front row. Hujek just in behind in P3. He's been able to solidify that podium. Mark Mackenberg with a sensational run. 1 lap left to go for race number 1 before we get to do it all over again in a few moments' time. But let's decide this race first. Before we jump the gun, Pavel Mikonin searching for a top 5 for the season opener. No way through yet, but still a long lap to decide. Will there be any changes really between Hujek and Mackenberg as well? Only a few tenths separating those two on the timing tower, so maybe there is something to watch in terms of that fight for the podium as the tensions rise. Into double curve final time. Then he battles behind that. John Pitcher with Scholz-Oyser, Christian Orban. That 3-way for 7th. Then, of course, you've got Bernard Rubio and Clough, and, of course, Sven Mackenberg in the mix, who could well benefit if anything happens between the two in front. It's not exactly the first time we've seen something like that happen. Matej Mikovic through turn number 1 on two drivers he was fighting with, of course, Buchanan, and it was Juhas at the time, I believe. Sven Mackenberg, there you can see on the back of Clough, their battles have allowed Bernard Rubio to get a bit of breathing room. However, over the curb into the braking zone in the Arnage competition car, blocking it off, and Sven Mackenberg was able to, of course, avoid, but still stuck behind. Probably not too far from the finish, as Alessandro Ottaviani will, of course, see the Italian across the line when he gets there. He's driven a fantastic race, that goes without saying. I mean, he is a man on a mission. He is a man that is very decorated in the world of sim racing. And, of course, came to T6 Motorsport for this season. Got pole on the second time of asking for some qualifying. And will potentially come across the line to take victory. Of course, we'll catch him as we can. We're still watching this battle with Sven Mackenberg and Michael Clough, but arguably probably into the final couple of corners now is going to be Alessandro Ottaviani. So there he is, the Italian, flash the headlights, keeping it nip and tuck to the pit wall. Alessandro Ottaviani on debut in the T6 Motorsport Super Touring Championship takes victory from pole position here in Suzuka. There's Mrak as well in second, keeping his place on the podium ahead of Hujek, who rounds it off. The top 3, Marvin Mackenberg close, but no cigar for him, with Matej Mikovic rounding off the top 5, very, very close all the way down throughout the field. What a battle that was. Race number 1 going the way of Ottaviani. What an impressive debut that is. What an impressive debut that is for the entirety of our top 4. All of them their first time taking to the T6 Motorsport grid. And they've all either finished on the podium or finished inside the top 4 with some huge positional gains. Of course, we'll run you through the final finishing order in just a moment before we throw away towards race number 2. Fabio Gil fighting with Deploy all the way to the end of the race. This is the fight for P23. Christian Juhas down at P25. And a long way to go to fight his way back to the front, as that's one way to cross the line for Opelic. But there you can see Alessandro Ottaviani, pole, fastest lap, victory, a full 22 points for race number 1. Mrak in P2 with Hujek rounding off the podium. Marvin Mackenberg ahead of Matej Mikovic for the top 5. Pavel Mukonin, Pascal Jean-Pietre P6 and 7. Jules Oyser, Christian Orban and Victor Bernat Rubio, the final of those that round off the top 10. And the Spaniard joining the Hungarian on the front row of the grid for race 2. Michael Clough close, but not enough in the end in P11. Sven Mackenberg, a similar story for him in 12th. Stu Neal, Kovalevsky and Ben Farkas, a point, but not the point for the Hungarian. He wanted more today. Mukamov, Tadic, Trebek, Rostans and Kozlov round off the top 20 ahead of Choke, Deploy, Fabio Gil, Santiago Juhas, Eskavoski behind as well to round off, of course, the back end of the field. We're about to run ourselves into the second session. I'll be back in just a minute. Do not go anywhere. Well, ladies and gentlemen, just moments away from race number 2 of round number 1 of season 3 of the T6 Motorsport Super Touring Championship. Of course, race number 1 was fireworks when it came to the race at the front. Of course, not so much with the top 3, but those, of course, fighting for the bigger chunk of the top 10. My name is still Zach Sweeney in the commentary booth, and thank you, of course, to all of our sponsors supporting the broadcast and bringing the amazing action to your stream, to your screen, and this amazing stream that, of course, we get to enjoy. 25 more minutes of racing action. Alessandro Ottaviani will start from P10, Victor Bernat-Rubio from P1, thanks, of course, courtesy to the reverse grid format. Same points on offer, still a point for fast lap, so 20 for the victory, all the way down to 1 for P15. What's in store? Alessandro Ottaviani maybe going to be looking to carve his way through the field. Maybe Bernat-Rubio defending for his might here at Suzuka. But the fire red lights are on. We're going to cut our way to the grid as soon as we can. And race number 2 of round 1 here in Suzuka. 25 on the clock, Bernat-Rubio ahead of Christian Orban on the front row, and we get going once more. A good initial start from the Spaniard as he hurdles his way towards turn 1 here in Suzuka. There you can see Shaw's Oyster as well at the black in the background, just able to settle into third place quite nicely. The top 2 fairly single file. Same is true for pretty much the entirety of the top 4. A little bit of carnage in the background, as you can see. Couple of moves being made. Alessandro Ottaviani fighting away, I believe that is with Rack battling for the outer edges of the top 10 as they're unable to make major progress forwards this early on, but still plenty of racing yet to come as they battle their way through the S's. It's Victor Bernat-Rubio that heads the field. Christian Orban, also Pablo Buchanan moving into fourth place. Marcel Jean-Pietre as well, the top 5. So more to come, I'm sure. Race number 2 away nice and cleanly as we head our way towards the Degners for the inaugural time of this race. Are we going to see anywhere near the level of carnage and chaos that we saw over the course of race number 1? The top 2 are nice and clean. Christian Orban, though, fighting for that position, and will definitely give it a good go, potentially going into the hairpin. He's very much tucked up behind Victor Bernat-Rubio, maybe going to spark some pressure, but again, not quite close enough. Shaw's Oyster very late on the brakes going in. It's got a bit of a Constantina effect as they all bundle up, the accordion effect going into the hairpin. How's the exit? They go through sees you into spoon curve. Bernat-Rubio doing a great job as the lead, maintaining track position. So far, clean start. Nice to see the top 4 breaking away a little bit, slightly detached from Jean-Pietre in 5th. About 6/10, 5/10 flirting on that edge, side by side for lead. Here comes Christian Orban to the outside, there's contact and he's off the road momentarily. That's going to hamper his momentum. Shaw's Oyster potentially there, able to capitalise. The Dutchman then fills the space on the right hand side and finds his way through. Danger zone for Christian Orban now, who could be hung out to dry. Of course, he gets Freight Train potentially. You can see Pavel Mukonin finds his way past as well. Christian Orban now down to 4th thanks to one mistake and a bit of contact with the Spaniard. He's going to be forced to defend going into turns 1 and 2. Shaw's Oyster through into 2nd place. Very nicely done as Mukonin gets his way into 3rd. Christian Orban now down to 4th. That all kicked off really at the drop of a pin. 22 minutes still on the clock. Of the field still so far. To recover from that small mistake, and again how important the momentum is, especially in a circuit like Suzuka. It's all about keeping the minimum speed up, especially in a pack like this, not going offline excessively or losing too much speed. Easier said than done, of course. Mistakes do happen and you are forced sometimes to battle. There's contact there. It's getting from bad to worse for Christian Orban, and look at what's happened in the background. Alessandro Ottaviani, I think, the one kind of going through the grass ever so slightly. He picks his way into 6th. Ahead now of Marvin Mackenberg alongside him in 7th. Of course, they're jostling for position. Now the German slightly ahead of the Italian. Of course, the race 1 winner trying to integrate himself into the top fight. Now has got the inside for the first part of Spoon Curve. Marvin Mackenberg going to give it a good go around the outside. Has he got the agility to send the move? There you can see as well Matej Mikovic and Hudjek just in behind. They find formation 1 from 2 from 1, and then of course the rest of the top 10. Marvin Mackenberg get threat from the Hungarian. Matej Mikovic going to fight it all the way up the hill towards 130R. The German in a precarious situation with the slipstream, able to solidify that place, stay ahead, and of course only lose the 1 place. Ottaviani side by side as Hudjek sends the move on with Matej Mikovic going in now towards the Casio triangle. The Chill Blast liveried machine has to give way. Big sense in the background as well. I think Brack, Sven Mackenberg, Croft all battling going into the Casio triangle. As there is Sven Mackenberg losing the place to Brack through the final corner. In the end, down to heat 11. Very close fight, but still all the way up and down this field, and will continue to be the way, I hope, for the next 20 minutes and of course the next 18 races that we've got in store. There's Ben Svarkash just in the background, I think making some good moves forward in 16th place, losing a position based off his start, but moving his way back past Mukimov for again another lonely point. 15th, but got to take what you can get. Slight pressure from Oyster and Rukonen. Schnorban not many miles away either. The top 4 second by less than a second. The top 5 just a second and a half. There they are. Rukonen in 3rd. Schnorban just behind him 4th. Bernat Rubio still leading the train. Slow exit there from Shaw's Oyster, and it gets to a point that, yeah, maybe at this stage they want to work together just to stay with Victor, but at the end of the day, Shaw's Oyster doesn't cut up to the chase, then Rukonen has to think for the greater good and eventually find a way past. Towards Spoon once again for lap number 3. Close, but not close enough for Rukonen. However, a nice tight line for the second apex. Sees him take to the inside, catches Oyster off guard, forces him wide. That could open the gap as well for the Hungarian and Christian Orban to maybe have a bit of a look. He does, looks to the left, but the slipstream goes the way of the Dutchman. It's going to be a 3-horse fight going into 130R and potentially the Casio triangle after that. Who's going to fill the inside, if anyone? Oyster not close enough, but Pavel Rukonen nicely done into 2nd place. However, the next braking zone into the Casio triangle will force him to go defensive. Shaw's Oyster going to search for the gap on the inside, but late enough is the Russian to stay ahead. Alessandro Ottaviani looking very menacing in the rear of this train as well, trying to pick his way into the top 5. Very good opportunistic move there by Pavel Rukonen. Eagle eyes to spot the gap and then fill it. There is Ottaviani on the back of the Swiss driver of Jean-Pietre. Looks momentarily, but tucks back into the slipstream just for a moment, then brings it back out late on the brakes into turn 1. Gets given a little bit of space from Pascal Jean-Pietre. The space does open up, but very quickly shuts going into turn 2. Ottaviani forced to concede and stay in 6th for now, but some fairly impressive progress considering Brack has actually gone backwards from his starting position to P10. Ottaviani up into 6th, so probably looking to get himself a good £20 of winning prizes, of course, for winning a round as such, based on points. He's a big claim for that, especially if he's able to continue to move his way forward. Definitely guaranteed at least something. Of course, 20 for the round winner, 15 for P2, and 10 for P3. So basically, essentially, for that particular bit of prize money, treat each round as its own mini championship. However, battles going on out on circuit. We'll get to that point in just a second. Jean-Pietre now ahead of Christian Orban. Alessandro Ottaviani going to follow him through and then go for his own move to the inside. Very late on the brakes in the background. I think that might be Hudjek. Matej Mikovic just in behind. It's caused all sorts of trouble. Ottaviani up 5 places into the top 5, staking a claim for this mini championship. It takes place on each round to decide, and that prize money as such, of course, as part of the overall championship, worth £285 for the winner, which is a mind-boggling amount of money for, of course, just a driver entry. That's the standard you get to when you're a recommended community by Motorsport UK Esports. That's the level that we've risen to as T6 Motorsport. Of course, the Super Touring Championship itself. Big money, attracts big names, attracts big racing. Pascal Jean-Pietre not able to go for a big race move to the inside of 130R, but setting it up maybe not into the Cascio triangle. Moving into turn 1, especially if Oyster defends thin air like he's been doing. 16 minutes left to go. Space into the second part there of the Cascio triangle, and Jean-Pierre has to be careful. Viviani, very menacing, continues to be. I think actually does put alongside. There is Christian Orban, who's in plenty of places in the opening stages of this race, would like to minimise that, at least get himself back inside the top 5. Pascal Jean-Pierre, of course, just ahead of the Ottaviani on the inside of turn number 1, losing that place to the outside of Christian Orban, who sails the move beautifully from the Hungarian, but it's not done, of course. He has to assume the inside for turn 3. Ottaviani having to go the long way around. Can he dance his way around the outside of Christian Orban like he did to him? He does exactly that. The Italian back through for P5. Marvin Mackenberg arriving on the scene as well, through the left, then the right of the S section, the final part at the top of the hill. Alessandro Ottaviani able to stay ahead. Nice defence. They dip their way back down before they rise once again through Dunlop. Defence, what battle between himself and Christian Orban. What racing that we're getting ourselves in store for the entirety of the season. Mackenberg in 7th. His brother Sven in P11, so team on the edge of the top 10. A good result as a brotherhood. Very close for the lead, by the way. Pavel Mikkonen might well be going for it on Victor Bernat Rubio. They're not really separated by too much, or at least they weren't. To back out of it in the end. Look at just how close this field is. Nose this out through the entirety of the hairpin. 15 minutes left on the clock. Approaching the half distance mark already of this race. Darragh Thacker is going to have a worldie of a time when he joins me in the commentary booth in a week's time. Side by side, Ottaviani on the inside of Pascal Jean-Pierre. The space opens up through the second part of Spoon. Now it's going to be a case of who can get the exit, I think, because it is going to go the way of the Italian. Jean-Pierre might be able to give it a defence, but in the end tucks in behind, gets the slipstream. The wise thing to do here would probably be to work with Ottaviani, who's now going to try and get after Jules Oyster, and then eventually the top 2 who are battling away. You can see in the foreground of shot, Pavel Mikkonen trying to go for the lead and making 4 places gained in race 1. He's had a sensational evening. It must be said for Mikkonen, P5 in race 1, looking for the win in race 2. So far looking such a strong adversary, making those moves where they count in race 1 and right now in race 2, maybe going for the lead. Victor Bernat Rubio defends a little bit of the inside. Base Mikkonen wide, he's going to go for the up and under, but it's parked beautifully by the Spaniard, who is not giving this up without a fight. But Mikkonen trying every trick in the book, trying to throw everything in his arsenal at the Spaniard. Now the Russian goes to the right hand side through the first part of the S's. They start their ascent, and it's just going to be a case of ebbing and flowing, trying to search for that up and under gap, but it's not going to work for Mikkonen on this particular occasion. They've got to be careful though, because Oyster, Ottaviani, Pascal Jean-Pierre all are part of that trade, and if they get involved, then that is dangerous territory for these top 2. Right now they're safe. Oyster and Ottaviani are 2 drivers I would not want to get involved in this battle, and at the moment it's a dangerous prospect in behind. Degner 1, Degner 2. Mikkonen incredibly quick where it counts, but not quite quick enough. Just needs to find an extra edge that can find his way past Victor Bernat Rubio, but the Spaniard has got remarkable defence. Here's Matin Mikovic looking to go to the outside, bit of a tap, as you can see from Hijek, and can Mikovic get his foot to the floor effectively enough? No, he can't. Has to take back in behind. So it's Hijek trying to make Mackenberg, who himself is on the back of Orban, who himself is on the back of Pietro, who himself is on the back of Ottaviani, who himself is on the back of Oyster. I think you get the picture really as to how close this battle is. How recording it has been. The halfway mark has been ticked through. 12.5 minutes left to go, or to be precise, 12 minutes and 15 seconds on the clock. 6 laps at the line. If that really. I think no, it probably will be 6 laps, maybe 5. We'll be close, we'll see. Alessandro Ottaviani, he's on the back of Shaw's Oyster, and in fact looking to go to the outside of the Cascio triangle. He's going to bait him in deep though, try and get the up and under, not once but twice. This base opens up. Jean-Pierre definitely tempted. Here's Ottaviani. He's got his foot down a lot earlier than the Dutchman ahead. Who's going to be the one flying into turn number 1? Of course, Oyster immediately defensive, not taking any chances as the Italian closes menacingly. Bernat Rubio versus Pavel Mikkonen. That's the fight for the lead as well. They're going to fly in Noah's Ark formation. The up and under. Pavel Mikkonen searching for the gap. Is it given by Bernat Rubio? No, it's not. The fight for the lead closes. Shaw's Oyster as well, able to stay ahead of Ottaviani, but for how much longer? Because the Italian is hammering on that pressure, lap after lap, corner after corner, but as a net gain, they are closing into this battle. The gap now just 1.2, and maybe if they stop just for a lap, they could be onto the back of this fight and maybe have the net gains to go for the lead. But of course, Ottaviani, you can't blame him for wanting to lead that charge. Now, obviously, entering the closing stage of this race now, we are obviously into the second half of it. Once again, Degner 1 and 2. Ottaviani looking for the space. He's going to send the move into the inside of the second. Degner, nicely done from the race 1 winner. Shores also tries to get the up and under. He hasn't quite got the overspeed though. Nice move from Ottaviani to spot the gap and then of course fill it and then seal the move. Defensive once again into the hairpin. The space could open up. Pascal Jean-Pierre to spot a move. Pushed wide there as Christian Orban as Marvin Mackelberg fills the gap and finds his way past, at the very least side by side. Matin Mikovic and Kujek as well. 2 by 2 they run in this fight for 7th or 6th place, I should say. Now Ottaviani's in third. His sole mission is to be closing that gap to the top 2. Matin Mikovic trying to stay ahead of Kujek, who's going to send the move once again to the inside of Spoon Curve. Of course, he's going to give the inside once again. Mikovic, though, with that outside momentum, going to keep his foot in. The agility is there, but for how much longer? Again, he's going to lose the benefit of that slipstream, and of course, doesn't quite have the speed to carry up the hill towards 130R. That's the target eventually. There you can see Rack just in behind as well. That's the 10th place driver. 130R. Doing a good job of staying ahead, fight for the lead once again. Buchanan giving it a good go, tucking just in behind, up over the curb nearly. Victor Bernard Rubio defending this lead as if his life depends on it. You cannot blame him for it. Gifted that pole position, of course, thanks to his hard work in race 1 by getting himself into the top 10. He is not going to waste this opportunity, but Pavel Buchanan wants to search for that victory, tucked up, getting as close as he dares. Now as they pull out in towards turn number 1, is going to try and go the long way round. Pavel Buchanan sends the move, squeezing the inside, of course, for the Spaniard. Bit of contact between the pair of them. Bernard Rubio emerges from turn number 2, ahead with the outside line. Buchanan going to send the move once again, so close to contact, but now Alessandro Ottaviani into the mix. He is in within slipstream range and well within the fight for the lead. 9 minutes left to go for race number 2 here at Suzuka. What a battle this is turning itself into, and what a season we've got in store for us as well. Bernard Rubio, what a valiant defence this is ahead of Buchanan. As they now, through Dunlop, into the Degners. I need to catch my breath for just a moment. And once again, the T6 Motorsport Super Touring Championship making me lose my voice. The inaugural round at Silverstone 2 seasons ago, I was out of action for a good week when it came to my voice. It took me that long to recover, and I think we're going to see a similar parallel return for another season opener. Conan is throwing everything at the Spaniard, and is just getting shut doors in his face, slammed doors in his face. Bernard Rubio is not taking any guests into that lead position today. But now, a big adversary, Ottaviani, who took pole and led every lap of race 1, didn't really have to do much in terms of pack racing. He's proved he's capable in the first part of race 1, but where it really matters now, the fight for the lead, can he handle the pressure? I've got no doubt about it. Pavel Buchanan and Bernard Rubio pumped up on adrenaline and ready maybe to take the fight to a very well decorated driver in sim racing, Gasper Brack, on the back of Matin Mikovic as well. Send for the move, actually, Pavel Buchanan, Ottaviani, there's contact, and the Italian sent sideways. He rejoins the circuit, but Shores Oyster and all of the hard work that Alessandro Ottaviani has just spent the last 13 minutes doing could well come undone. He drops down to 4th, could it well be 5th by the time they reach turn 1 and 2. Pascal Jean-Pierre eyeing up the space, trying to pick his way into the P4. Nose to tail, you can barely see at the back end of that train as they're so close together. Alessandro Ottaviani, thankfully for him, only dropping a couple of places to 4th. Definitely could have been worse, but could have been better for the Italian. Absolutely. Pavel Buchanan, meanwhile, took the lead of this race and is going to be looking to dispatch and get away from that pack while he still can. Bernard Rubio, though, cannot take any chances. If he wants that lead, he has to go back and he has to go and earn it. Pavel Buchanan now leading. That's a dangerous opportunity. Bernard Rubio needs to make sure he's still in contention because there's not long left to go. 2 laps at the line, I think, maybe. Otoviani going to do? He's going to look immediately to the inside of Oyser. He's on the back of Koenig, but if they want to fight for the lead, those two working together because they're nearly a second clear the gap. Substantially large relative to what it has been this evening. 9/10, nearly a second. It's 37 on the clock. I think it will be, in fact, maybe 3 to go at the line. Just. Outside Otoviani on the back of Shaw's Oyster. Is there going to be the space? Oyster, I have to say, really taking a step up from the previous seasons. He's going to try the long way round. Otoviani isn't going to see similar failure. He is losing a bit of momentum. Now Pascal Jean-Pierre has the run. It's a long pitch straight, a lot of momentum to lose for Otoviani, all for a failed attempt at third place. It's a good go, but not good enough, and now he's having to be on the back foot, following that slipstream as best he can. Clearly very powerful here at Suzuka. 5 minutes on the clock, 3 laps left to go. Down to the S's. Moving his way into P12 at the moment. That's going to be 4 points for him. But a total of 5 over the round is unacceptable, really, for his standard. Of course, not entirely his fault when it came to misfortune, but he's driven really well to recover to at least a relative standard. Here is the fight. Actually, Otoviani now ahead of Oyster on the exit of the hairpin. But Oyster not backing down. The race 1 winner on the inside now, of course, the right-hand side of your screen, the left-hand side of the circuit, and the inside for Spoon, however, goes in deep, and the up and under. Oh my goodness me, Shaw's Oyster takes the fight back to the Italian, who's now forced wide. Pascal Jean-Pierre as well, seeming very threatening in the rearview mirror. Christian Orban as well there. Also, Shaw's Oyster, though, what a move! Read that beautifully, saw that Otoviani was going to go in deep, and swooshed his way back under to take third place back. Of course, it limits their chance of going for more in this race with just 2 to go on to the penultimate lap of this race. Shaw's Oyster once again defensive. Otoviani not really sure which way to go. The outside, is it going to work for him this time? He's a little bit more ahead. He's going to be able to keep the space. Bit of contact between the pair of them. They're both sent sideways, and now the Swissman, maybe this is the one time that he's given an opportunity to close the gap, that he might well actually do something with it. Nose to tail as they start the penultimate lap of this race. Otoviani searching for the gap. Is he able to squeeze his way through? He has to back out, and Shaw's Oyster eventually gives him the space in towards turn number 1. What is Pascal Jean-Pierre going to do to this as well? Otoviani sends the move to turns 1 and 2, but Shaw's Oyster sends the move sideways through turn number 2 as well, and there's more calamity in the background as Jean-Pierre goes Hayward, and there you can see Christian Orban and Udressy getting themselves involved. Alessandro Otoviani through into third place. Eventually, Oyster able to stay with him, but it's actually the two battling each other. It's caused calamity for those that weren't even involved in the battle to begin with. Gregor Hugek now down to 7th as Marvin Mackenberg tries to capitalise to the outside. There also, it is Brack in P9, who was the big sort of loser of that. Definitely someone tumbled down a couple of places. Well have been Hugek in the end of it. But Shaw's Oyster, what a move, what a battle. Hugek on the inside. Drive-through penalty for Ben Farkash and ignoring the slowdown warnings. That is tough, a tough pill to swallow for him after what has been a sensational fight back. Down now to P19 and will leave the round with just 1 lonely point to his name. More battling to be taking place. Welcome to the YouTube chat, cheering on Shaw's Oyster, and understandably so. What a driver. And as I say, turning it up to the max compared to last season. Don't get me wrong, he wasn't a bad driver last season or the season before, but for some reason He's turned up today a new man. I want to have what he's been having for breakfast in the way that he's taken this battle to Ottaviani. A spectacle to watch. I really don't think we could have asked for much better when it comes to a season opener. I'm sure you'll all agree in the YouTube chat. Thank you for tuning in, of course. There is Gregor Hujek. Martin Mikovic as well in the Shield Blast livery. Looking secure for that victory. He fought hard for it, of course. Ottaviani, though, got one more lap to close, 1 second to Victor Bannett-Rubio for second place. So the end of it will be Ottaviani that will lead the championship. Fastest lap pole, of course, for race 1 to win. He'll get himself with 15 points for fair place. I mean, it will be. Pavel Mukona probably going to round off in second, I believe. 5th place in a win, not bad going. 30 seconds on the clock. Martin Mikovic sends in Clough wide and finds his way past for P11. He has, yeah, absolutely. Pavel Mukona, he's not waiting around for a receipt. He has just checked out and gone. As they're saying YouTube chat as well, we hear him commentary saying he's handed in his hotel room key, checked out at the front. He's run away 1.1 seconds. Relative to this race and how close it's been, that is a huge gap. Of course, I believe Ottaviani won by 2 and a bit seconds in race 1. Of course, that was under normal circumstances, not the chaos that's happened because of race number 2. What he's got to do now is keep it nice and clean. Of course, this time last season at Monza, his debut round, he took to a podium, I believe a top 5 in race 2 as well, or the other way around, top 5 in race 1, P3 in race 2. Right now, he's going to one up that P5 in race 1. Potential P1 on the horizon for him in race 2 as well. What a race it's been, what a driver he's been. What a way to arrive for a new season, a new year of T6 Motorsport racing action in terms of the Super Touring Championship. This is the final lap of what has been one of the best season openers to a championship that I think I've ever seen, at least in quite some time. Once again, we turn it up to 11 when it comes to the Super Touring Championship. That Super is not there for nothing. Christian Orban in 6th place, searching for P5. One last desperate attempt, maybe. Alessandro Ottaviani closed the gap to Victor Bannett-Rubio, but it was not enough. And now into the Castro Triangle for the final time. Race number 2 going to come to a close. Lap number 12 going to draw itself to a conclusion. Pavel Mukonin, this man right here, flash the headlights, hugs it tight to the pit wall. Race number 2 of week 1 of the Trip 6 Motorsport Super Touring Championship here in Suzuka goes the way of the Russian driver, victorious in Japan. Victor Bannett-Rubio, Alessandro Ottaviani, 2nd and 3rd. What a podium. What an evening for Ottaviani, what an evening for Mukonin. Both of them arriving. To be fair, everyone has arrived today. A couple of people having issues. Martin Mikovic in the end getting a disqualification, I think, for exceeding the incident limit. Of course, Santiago, Gil, Juhas and Trebek all not able to make it to the checkered flag of this race, but all in all, a battle for the ages. We'll run you through the final classification of race 2 before we unfortunately have to round off. Pavel Mukonin victorious and the fastest lap going the way of him as well. So 21 points for this round going his way. Victor Bannett-Rubio, Alessandro Ottaviani, the winner of this round, and of course the £20 prize pool will go his way in P3. Shores Oyster P4, a valiant battle, but not enough for a podium. Pascal Jean-Pietre consistent in P5, playing that, of course, that race really, really nicely. Christian Orban, Marvin Mackenberg, 6 and 7, ahead of Gregor Hujek, and of course Mrak in P9. Sven Mackenberg getting himself into the top 10 to make it double for the German brothers. Michael Clough, Kovalevsky, P11 and 12, Stu Neal, Mukamov, Kozlov, Fraser Rostans, Choke, Turdic, Opalic, Bench Farkash in P20, Deploy, Eskavoski, Trebek, Juhas, Fabio Gil, Santiago and Martin Mikovic, the 27th. Final driver, of course, to be classified. Of course, wasn't actually really classified. But ladies and gentlemen, I am upset that we have to say goodbye right now. Of course, thank you to everyone that has tuned in today. What a season opener. Of course, Darragh Thacker, Sorry, mate, you missed out on a cracker there. He will, of course, be joining me next week when we head to Aragon. There you can see the full calendar. Suzuka today, Aragon in a week's time, Imola, then the Twin Ring Motegi before we round off the first half of the season at Spa. A week's break before we're back for Silverstone. Slovakia, a bit of a different one on the 7th of April. Bathurst, Sepang, and the Nordschleife for our 10-round calendar for Season 3 of the Super Touring Championship. Ladies and gentlemen, my name has been Zach Sweeney. Thank you to everyone watching along. Thank you to all of our amazing partners and sponsors for making this possible. £285 on the line for the championship winner and prizes all the way through the field. The T6 Motorsport Super Touring Championship will return in a week's time. We'll see you then. Goodbye.